Well, the waiting is finally over and the timing could not be better. Sophie Cunningham has officially signed with the Fever for another season, and between her signing and everything else Indiana did so far this offseason to retain their core, it's clear they have unfinished business as a unit. And with Sophie being known as Caitlin's enforcer, fans breathe a sigh of relief, but the Fever may need to beef up even more.
Caitlin Clark is going to need the safety goggles.
Around the league, other teams are making moves as well, and one team in particular just made 2 moves that have all Caitlin Clark fans talking. The Chicago Sky, the team that's no longer supposed to be a rival, just cemented their spot as the Fever's #1 matchup. Not because of their talent on the team, even though they have dramatically improved since offloading Angel Reese, it's because of the history 2 of those players have with Caitlin Clark. Indiana has Tres Leches, and Chicago now has the Swipe Sisters. Things are about to get spicy. Let's get into what happened, plus all the recent moves Fever fans are happy and also kinda angry about. But first, like this video to welcome Sophie back, and subscribe for more Caitlin Clark and Indiana Fever updates. So, the past few days have been largely a huge relief for Caitlin Clark and Fever fans. I mean, there's not a ton of trust with Fever management with some of the free agents they brought in last year, DiJonai Bonner. And while they definitely continued with the go with who you know way of team building, and I'll get into some new potential misses in a moment, there are some moves that fans are happy with. The first priority in free agency was never really a mystery. Kelsey Mitchell was coming back. Caitlin Clark said so herself on NBC Basketball Night in America that Kelsey was the #1 priority. But getting her for just 1 year was the key that allowed flexibility for the future. A long-term deal could have really restricted the team as Caitlin hits her max contract next season. It was a win-now move without boxing themselves in. Kelsey gets what she's worth, Indiana keeps the window wide open, everybody wins. With Kelsey locked, attention turned to whether the rest of the band was getting back together. Fans had 2 players in mind above everybody else. The first was Lexi Hall, and Lexi didn't make anybody wait long once free agency started.
Tell a friend to tell a friend, she's back.
She broke her own news on TikTok with Caitlin while the 2 of them were at Augusta for the Masters. She was a restricted free agent who took meetings with other teams, other fan bases were actively recruiting her on social media, and she still chose to stay. And it's a good thing because she's an important piece in ways that don't always show up on her stat sheet.
Things that she does, the way that she impacts the game, it's like you look at the stat sheet and you go, the stat sheet just can't do justice. Sometimes she doesn't get credit for the steal, but if you watch her defense, she's the one that rattles the opposition that causes the steal to happen.
And then while fans were still waiting for word on Sophie, the Fever actually brought in someone new, Monique Billings, who everyone seems to agree is a solid pickup.
You look at Monique Billings, she sets nice screens, she rolls, she can finish around the rim, which in the WNBA, you can't take for granted.
Monique played with Kelsey in Unrivaled, and she played alongside Caitlin Clark with USA Basketball at the FIBA World Cup qualifying tournament in March. And the cool thing here, finally, is that the Fever brought in a player who has chemistry with their star point guard.
I actually saw a funny comment from a Valkyries fan saying, I knew it when I saw that first pick and roll on Team USA that they'd be after her. It is without a doubt the chemistry between Caitlin and Mo, after not even playing together, was really good.
And that matters because one of the real complaints about last year's roster was that certain players the Fever brought in just didn't fit a Caitlin Clark-led offense. One of those players was Natasha Howard, who fans respected but didn't see as a good fit. Well, she's gone.
2-time All-Star Natasha Howard is signing with the Minnesota Lynx, 2 years, $1.4 million. Sources tell ESPN. Every Fever fan just rejoiced. Nothing slowed down the pace of an Indiana Fever basketball game last year like Natasha Howard.
That, with the Billings signing, was the front office saying they're not just running it back exactly as is. Ty Harris came in too, a solid backup point guard who grew up in Fishers, Indiana. She actually has familiarity with Stephanie White from her time in Connecticut, which, as we know, can be a good or bad thing, but overall, people didn't seem to have a huge problem with that signing. Again, the signing everyone was actually holding their breath for was Sophie, and there was real fear she wasn't going to come back. She had real options this offseason, not just because of the marketability off the court, but because of her play on the court. What sometimes gets overlooked is how good a shooter she was last season.
I went back and looked at the stats, and there was about a 25-game period where Sophie was the best three-point shooter on the Indiana Fever. She was the one knocking down shots and had a higher shooting percentage from three-point range. So, never mind the enforcer, never mind the toughness, all this other thing. She can knock down a shot.
And when you think of the kind of money being thrown around, I mean, Courtney Williams got a 2-year supermax. Brittany Griner is 35 years old, scored under 10 points a game last season, and locked in a 7-figure deal. Anyway, when you see that kind of money out there, it was hard not to think Sophie would sign elsewhere, especially given her desire for security.
And I think the next team I play for, I want a bigger contract, so then I can buy a house and be homey and cozy.
Wow, that's crazy. That could be the Liberty, it could be New York City, it could also be the Lynx, and it could be Minneapolis. Like, you just don't know.
It could be anywhere.
But the hints were there that she'd stay in Indy. Specifically, when Lexi's TikTok dropped, Caitlin tagged Sophie in the comments, essentially a public, "You're next." And Sophie clapped back, playing coy, but on Sunday, April 12th, the fans got what they were waiting for.
Sophie Cunningham has agreed to a 1-year deal to return to the Indiana Fever, sources told ESPN.
Yes, Sophie Cunningham is finally coming back to Indiana. Tres Leches back together. Let the hater tears flow. Now, here's the crazy thing. She only took a 1-year deal. That's not a ton of security. She could have got much more locked in on the open market. So she clearly wants to be in Indy for at least one more shot to do what she couldn't do last year, play with Caitlin. We've never really seen this group play together healthy, for a long stretch at least. Last season, Caitlin's injury limited everything. But here's the good thing. When she was actually on the floor, the team was 8-5. And even then, Caitlin was playing through pain for a chunk of those games. When this group is fully operational, Sophie healthy, Caitlin healthy, Lexi, Kelsey, Monique, and Aaliyah Boston all running together, the ceiling is genuinely unknown. Look, I'm not 100% sold that the Fever Brass are doing everything they can to build a contender. The Liberty are doing laps around them at this point. But they didn't, thankfully, completely run it back. First, they let Natasha Howard walk, and now Bree Turner's gone. She went to the Aces, which makes this clip that much funnier.
Brianna Turner missed a free throw so bad, the Las Vegas Aces bench was laughing at her. They thought a bomb went off in the arena. Misses the rim completely, doesn't even hit the net, hits the bottom of the backboard, and they think a grenade went off right next to them. Look how scared they got.
Anyway, the Fever have run it back enough, and this season we'll get our first real look at what they're capable of. If Stephanie White lets Caitlin cook, and that's a big if, this team should be a contender. And the big win with Sophie, obviously, is her willingness to throw down. Let's go back for a moment. Of course, we all remember this. Yep, Jacy's claws on the literal face of the league. And of course, no Tex. Later, Sophie, who's a Taekwondo black belt, got revenge. The message was finally delivered. You don't put your hands on Caitlin Clark and get away with it. But Sophie's gonna have her hands full this season. First, Jacy Sheldon was traded to the Chicago Sky on April 11th. Fever fans immediately understood what it meant. No Angel Reese, no problem. The Fever Sky rivalry is back on. The bad blood between Caitlin and Jacy is actually real, going back to college, Ohio State versus Iowa. But that was just the start of it.
And DiJonai Carrington has officially signed with the Chicago Sky. She is definitely a hustle player, definitely pesky on defense, and alongside Jacy Sheldon, it looks like the Sky is still retaining that rivalry with the Fever.
That's right, DiJonai Carrington also signed with the Chicago Sky. If you were watching in Caitlin's first season, 2024 playoffs, Game 1 against the Sun, you know exactly why this signing means double trouble for Caitlin. DiJonai went for the ball, her hand came across, and she gouged Caitlin in the eye. I know they said it wasn't on purpose, but there was some extra sauce on that follow-through for sure. DiJonai has had a reputation ever since. Hands everywhere, constantly physical, the kind of defender who turns every possession into a confrontation. Now, she and Jacy are on the same team. I'm calling them the Swipe Sisters. I could have also went with the Gouge Girls or the Poker Stars. You can tell me your favorite nicknames in the comments. Anyway, whatever you want to call them, those games are going to be rough.
Caitlin Clark, somebody get her some Kurt Rambis goggles. She gonna need Caitlin Clark is going to need the safety goggles to play against the Chicago Sky. They're putting together a Caitlin Clark hit squad.
And it's not as if those games are going to be cakewalks in the first place like they were last season when the Fever went 5-0. I mean, has anyone noticed how much better the Sky got after trading Angel Reese? Her fans acted like that was the beginning of the end for Chicago. Instead, they went out and signed Skylar Diggins, brought in Azurá Stevens at 6'6", added Rickea Jackson via trade, and yeah, added the Swipe sisters. Those Fever Sky games this season are going to be brutal, which is exactly why Sophie needed to come back, but also why the Fever probably needed some extra toughness. Well, they may have just got it. The Fever just signed Myisha Hines-Allen, and look, the crash out from Fever fans was so intense and expected that the Fever admin even told fans in their X announcement to basically be nice and give her a warm welcome, which you shouldn't have to say under normal circumstances. And I get it. Again, there are just so many great players that have been up for grabs, and you have the face of the league on your team. You'd think the Fever brass could land better talent to support her.
They're saying if Caitlin Clark can win a championship with this team, it's time to build her a statue. That's what I'm seeing. The best free agents ever. Available for the first time. All of them, pretty much. And this is what we settle for.
But there is a bright side. She may be a deterrent to players like Jacy and DiJonai. She's only 6'1", but she's 200 pounds and not afraid to throw her weight around.
I don't care if she's 6'1". She is a center. It's like a 6'7" center in the NBA. You can get away with them. She's built like a linebacker. She is the strongest player in this damn league. She is, you know why we say Sophie Cunningham's an enforcer? Because, you know, she stands up for her teammates. Myisha Hines-Allen doesn't need to stand up for her teammates. Teams will be scared to go for Caitlin Clark because of Myisha Hines-Allen. I'm not going to say it's a home run signing, but based on everything that's left, it's a good signing.
For a team that needs toughness and deterrence, she may be a good depth player to have. We'll have to wait and see. Sophie said it herself when she signed, "Let's get spicy." And it's going to get spicy. The Sky are loaded with Caitlin's villains, other teams are loading up, and we're going to see how the Fever stack up. The Fever have their sassy sparkplug enforcer and sharpshooter in Sophie. They've got their heart and soul in Lexi. They've got Kelsey, who was a first-team WNBA All-Star last year. And of course, they have a healthy Caitlin. And with Caitlin, anything is possible. Let's just hope her teammates, returning and new, stand up for her when needed. If you're still here, drop a trophy in the comments because you're a winner for sticking around. Thanks for watching. See you next time.